you all to this really informal session of what we normally call the Forum of Christian Muslim Thought. We don't know if this is going to be applicable at the end of the discussion, whether this is a dialogue session. I'm not going to introduce, as I said earlier, Mr. Rami Ollaik. First of all, I want to thank him for accepting our invitation to come here. The relevant biographical information you have before you. I read his book, his first book, The Bees Road. He's going to talk about it. And then his second book, Under the Green Waters, which appeared only a couple of months ago, and it's a huge one, 600 pages. And I said to myself, we have to listen to this man. It's a very intriguing character, very intriguing thought. A Lebanese Muslim, a Shiite from the south, who very early on got deeply involved with Hezbollah and actually did some fighting, I think it's clear from his book. Very militant, very aggressive. Then went to AUB to study agriculture and led a huge strike, that's not in the information here, a huge strike against the raising of tuition fees. And somehow a transformation took place in him at AUB. You continue reading about him and maybe seeing some interviews on YouTube, and you hear of Christian themes, religious experiences. There's a mention of baptism. There's a praying in the hermitage of Saint Charbel, the Maronite Lebanese saint. And yet there is also a statement that he is not a convert and that he has not abandoned his Islam. Very intriguing. So, Rami Ollaik, who are you? What's your story?
Well, that's a big question. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, again, as you mentioned, I prefer not to have this as a formal session, more of a chit-chat. And basically, I would rely on the discussion panel more than on the introductory lecture. I'm not sure what's in the briefing there, but one of them, they got it from Wikipedia or a website or Facebook, but there was one description or a couple lines that are really intriguing. I'm not going to talk politics today. It's just for these couple lines, provocative lines. And then we'll go into spirituality and religion and then your questions. And I'm open to answer any question that crosses your minds. Now, who am I? A traitor? I'm just wondering, the same as you are. A traitor to Hezbollah? A suspected terrorist to the United States? What I know of is I'm the honeyman at AUB. I love bees. I have them on campus. I live among them, and they are great inspiration. That's why I called my first book The Bees Road. And I draw a lot of bee metaphor in both books. Now, let me just mention a couple things about my writings, my works, and then I'm going to read like a few paragraphs from The Bees Road, and then we go into Q&A. Well, basically, the first book, The Bees Road, or in Arabic, Tariq al-Nahl, it was written, it was published or released in 2008. It was launched in February at AUB. I was in the process of writing that book in English in the first place. But then I felt there's something wrong. I need to write it in Arabic first. So I stopped with the English writing, and then I finished the book in Arabic because I want to speak the language of my people, where I want my message to most resonate. I didn't write because I wanted to become a writer, honestly. I had a lot of feelings. It was bottled up inside of me, and I wanted to let it out. I joined Hezbollah when I was 13. That was basically in the mid-80s. I became a child soldier, and I stayed in the party, excelled in the ranks of the party, whether it be education, military, intelligence, and I kept working inside the party until I got to the closest circles inside the party, decision-making circles. Basically, after the protest that you talked about, 1994, I led a student demonstration at AUB. According to the administration, it was by far the most significant student movement in the history of the university. AUB shut down for a whole week. It was all over the news, everywhere, in Lebanon, in the region. A lot of strings pulling in politics. Everybody got involved, presidents, Lebanon, countries. Now, the thing ended. I'm not going to talk about the specifics of that, but basically, it ended, and what did not end on the personal level is the many reflections that I had. Because that was the first time where I moved from the confinement of the party, okay, where I considered everything within the Shia community, the context of the party, to be holy and sacred and righteous. When I led this demonstration, I took part in it with fellow students from different religions, different backgrounds, different countries, different ethnicities. And I found out that, well, there is a way to have unity, not through the very sectarian context or scale of one's sect or religion. There could be a human cause further than the party or the sect or even religion, which unites fellow humans. And that's when I got a lot of question marks. I kept them dormant and silent. I took time to meditate, to think him and rethink him over and over. At the same time, I was into the very depth of the party circles, and I got a lot of confusion back then. Kind of like spiritually, I was like questioning the doctrines, a lot of teachings, Shia teachings, Muslim teachings, role of religion, the place of God in our world. And at the same time, I was getting deeper. The AUB strikes gave me a lot of popularity that got me into these deep circles inside Hezbollah. And I led, during that transformation, a profound reform attempt. I spent from 1994 till the end of 1996 all the time I needed to understand, to a great extent, the apparatus of Hezbollah. And I came up in the end with a reform plan that I submitted to the Iranians who were in charge of Hezbollah, the Ministry of Intelligence. All this is in my book, my books. And, well, I had to let it out. I got in touch with the most influential Iranians. One of them, the officer of the intelligence ministry, that told me, we tell Nasrallah to do this and not to do that, etc., etc. And then the point is, I'm not talking about this, but the point is, I got the answer from Tehran a couple of weeks later, answer to my reform plan, and it was a no, okay? Because Hezbollah was not made to be a political institution, but rather a military/intelligence body. And that was when I'm just using this to tell you about the clash, that I had. On the personal level, I had a lot of reflections and meditation going on. I got to the point where I hit the wall with Hezbollah, and I got convinced that reform there is not possible if Hezbollah stays the way it is. I ended up going to the mountains, spending hours and nights. One of them is the Hermitage of St. Cherbourg. And then I ended up like with the most crucial decision of my life, quitting Hezbollah after about 13 years of continuous jihad. Not only that, I had a new form of ideas and convictions, superseding the old ones, superseding the ritualistic, the manipulative old ones, but not the good makeup that I struggled to retain. Okay? Which brought me to this point. After I quit Hezbollah, I had attempts to unite Lebanese, I had a civic movement. And then in 1998, I had my outmost open up to Christianity. Because, you know, like in Lebanon, it's basically the Muslims and the Christians, and they make the identity of the country. And I wanted to, I was like confined away from exposure to Christianity. And I wanted to know. It's not a matter of strict religious motive or something like that. No, I want to find out this other half of the country. I want to learn more. I want to see what I used to go against. You know, I want to see if I was right. I want to see where I was wrong. And I ended up like going to the mountains, spending nights there at St. Cherbourg. And I ended up like in a burning itch to embrace Christianity. It didn't happen as a matter of a decision, just like that. I had a long trip that I mentioned in my book where I carried the Lebanese flag. I remember back then the Israelis withdrew from the country in 2000. And despite all the sacrifices and the involvement in the cause, I was born in Marjayoun, at the very borders of Lebanon, to the Israeli side, and I missed that land, and I wanted to go there, but I didn't, because I saw, okay, again, I'm not talking politics, but I'm just like summarizing some good milestones in my life. I saw like a new form of invasion of the area and drawing the political lines for a new era of segregation and divisions and all that, and I didn't like it. I didn't go there. I waited for a month, and then I was so angry, I decided to draw the Lebanese flag, put it on a stick, and I started a trip from St. Cherbourg. I toured, walking almost continuous walking for 8 days, most of the Lebanese areas, until I got with my flag walking to the old security zone border, and then I went all the way to Marjayoun, to where I was born, with this flag. That's how I wanted to go there. I didn't want to see any other flag of a faction, of a party, of a sect, anything, just the Lebanese flag. Now, the thing is, during that trip, to go back to my point, during that trip, basically, the last 3 days, before I headed for the last couple days to the south, I ended up at the Cedars Jej, the Jej Cedar Forest. Jej is a village in northern Lebanon, kind of like above Jbeil, and there was an old chapel there. You had to walk for like 1.5 hours off-road to get there. And it was just a small chapel, you know, one room, barely having a door, a window, in the middle of a small cedar forest. And I just ended up there alone, you know, on the top of the mountains, lighting a fire, staying by myself. Wind was blowing really strong, and I just didn't want to move on. I stayed for 3 days and 3 nights. And when I slept there, I felt so much in peace. within. And that's when I finished my trip, I went back to some friends, some priests, and I just said, this has happened to me, okay? And I felt so much in peace, so much embraced. And I just, well, nobody has monopoly over religion, and I want to get baptized. It's not about converting or something like that. It's embracing the Christ and the beauty of Christianity in a very simple way. And then the priest was like, had a couple priest friends. It's like, well, there's a lot of ways to baptism. One of them is the holy water. Another one is love. And you got baptized by this passion for Christ. And there's no need to do the rituals. Well, I was partially satisfied. And then I ended up like, I insisted, and then I ended up like going through the rituals, okay, of the holy baptism. And then again, to me, it was a spiritual thing, a human thing. I don't take it strictly. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, no, it's not. And I got more exposed to Christianity. I went to churches. I took part in the masses and the Holy Communion. Even when I went to the United States, okay, I joined an evangelical fellowship for 1 year just to, I attended services. So I had it the Catholic way and the Christian way, Yeah, well, they use this. They use this in the States, Christian like Protestant, And basically, well, some unforeseen events happened, okay, unfortunately, post September 11th, and I was approached by the FBI and the CIA. Well, wow, that's a big asset there, I had quit Hezbollah, I quit everything, and I became a party guy, and making up for all what I missed before. And then I was unfortunate by the aftermath of 9/11, and the guys were like, this is an asset. They approached me with a security agenda, and I just couldn't take it. And my answer was, I don't want to be a petty agent. I'd rather serve my cause through intellectual, academic preaching and reach outs. And it didn't work. It was like the security concern was just like on the minds of everybody. It's like, no. And I was subject to an organized, unfortunately, blackmail, where I was deported from the United States. I finished my PhD studies in resource economics at the University of Florida in Gainesville, and they didn't let me get my degree, okay? And I was subject to the blackmail there at the embassy, unfortunately, here. I didn't compromise. My slogan was, on the first page of my book, live free or die trying. I didn't leave Hezbollah to compromise my freedom with anybody else. That left me bitter after I fell in love with America and what America stands for. I'm still in love with America, despite the bitterness that mounted up. It was really hard to take it from my college, my people, I remember like when I got there, I bent down and kissed the ground, and I was looking for the great Satan. Where is the great Satan? Hardworking people, double shifts. I was not discriminated upon back then. I was appreciated. And I remember like this thing in my mind, yeah, I want to be here. I want to be where I'm appreciated, not just merely tolerated. But unfortunately, if you don't catch up with your past, it catches up with you. I'm still going through this thing, no compromises. I remember like I talked about this to Reverend George Haddad. He was my kind of mentor back at the evangelical school, National Evangelical School in Nabatea, South Lebanon. And he just we had a long discussion about that. And I was so angry. Why is America doing this to me and stuff? And he's like, Rami, you have to be patient. It will come. You're right. They need some time to realize that you're good. You're good to your fellow human beings, citizens, to America. And I'm waiting on that. Writing, I poured down my thoughts on paper, all my grievances, back to the book. I'm going to talk more about the faith, religion thing, just to finish my briefing. And then basically, so I wrote the book in Arabic. It was released and created a big fuss.